Hello there, my name is Thompson and this is one of my Myths of Golf series. The Myths of Golf are very popular on my YouTube site, and I think mainly because they get people thinking maybe differently, maybe thinking about things that happen in the swing rather than things that they think might happen. This myth of golf is about practicing with your feet together to try and improve your arm and your wrist movement. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. What I'm saying is I don't like to see anyone practicing things that are not part of their swing. For example, if you go to any golf tournament or watch any films of good golfers, you will never see anyone playing golf with their feet together. Ben Hogan, a very much admired golfer, everyone likes his swing, and I believe he once said, never practice anything that isn't part of your swing, and I agree with that entirely. With your feet together, what's the club head? Club head behind the ball, feet together, the club head comes away from the ground really quickly. From this angle, again, feet together, the club head comes away from the ground really quickly. Feet nice and wide, club head will go lower and much wider. From this angle, wider the stance, the club head will be travelling further away from you. A very simple way of checking that is this. To my right there's a net, feet together, the club head is maybe that far away from the net. If I widen my stance and turn round, the club head now quite easily hits the edge of the net. So what is the point? What is the point of practicing a swing that will bring the club head away from the ground too soon and narrow your swing width arc quite dramatically? Only practice things that are part of the swing. Most good golfers have their feet about that far apart. This is a wooden golf club, and the wider you can have the stance, the wider the arc of the swing. Feet together, a narrow arc. Another problem is people think by practicing with their feet together they're going to then improve their wrist action. Well, guess what? You will. You will improve your wrist action by doing that, which is the last thing you want. Who wants to hit a golf ball with their wrists going that way and that way? No one that I can think of. I can't think of one good golfer, not one in the world, who hits the golf ball with his wrists going that way. But with your feet together, that's what's going to happen. So ask yourself a question: do you want to practice with your feet together to give you a very narrow arc and your wrists rolling over? I think quite possibly the answer is you wouldn't want to do either of those two things. This also works surprisingly with a putter. Just grab a putter. Again, watch good golfers. All I do, I don't try to invent golf swings or invent a new way of playing golf. To me, golf is about 800 or 900 years old, and you can't really reinvent a golf swing. It's like a wheel. A wheel used to be round, obviously, and made of stone. Well, now wheels are made of carbon fibre and all sorts of fantastic materials with rubber tyres on them, but they're still round, and the golf swing is still the same basic shape that it was 800 years ago. Back to the putting. Have you seen any good putters with their feet together? I guess the answer will be no, because the putter head now is going to come away from the ground really quickly, going back and going forward. And you really want the putter head to go through nice and low, and the wider stance lets that happen. Have you thought about this with the putter? The putter head is very, very narrow from top to bottom. Look at the putter head compared to the size of the ball. If your feet are together and the putter head comes up, you're going to hit the bottom of the blade. You want to have a putting stroke where the putter head goes through nice and low, so you can hit the ball in the middle of the ball. The putter head is very narrow, it really is. All golf shots, to me, are hit forward. There's no point trying to hit the ball down, because the club, whatever club in your hand, going back to the wood, the club head now has gone up in the air and it's going to come down. To me, there's no point in bringing the club down, just bring the club forward. Forward, to me, is that. And I can't do that with my feet close together. Comes away from the ground too soon, and it will come away from the line too soon. Lower it's going. Wider stance, goes through lower, and it can go through straighter. We don't want to encourage, or I don't want to encourage, anyone to roll their wrists. If you want to roll your wrists, that's entirely up to you. Have your feet together. Roll the wrists. No one does it. One of my myths of golf on my YouTube site is about rolling the wrists. And good golfers don't want to do that with a very narrow stance. It will encourage you to do so. I'll show you on my screen one or two people that I teach, and we'll look at the impact position and look at the width of their stance. This is a young man called Philip. I've taught him for nearly 20 years now. And he got down to scratch last year being 2018. He had two of his best ever scores. He shot a gross 65 and a gross 66. Nice wide stance. Now watch the club head after impact, and watch how the club head tracks along underneath this line, which would be impossible with a very, very narrow stance. So good shift onto the left side, and there's the ball taking off, and the club head hitting the ball opposite this tee peg, and the club head is still travelling more or less parallel to the ground. Philip hardly ever takes a divot. He doesn't need to. He can hit the ball perfectly well without taking a divot, even though most of the top golfers tend to do with some of the golf clubs. So a wider stance gives you a wider arc, and it allows you some lateral motion. All good golfers, even ones who think they don't do it, in the forward swing they have a lateral motion. There. And hits the ball beautifully. So you go down to scratch. scratch golfer with a fairly wide stance. Can't be an exact width of stance, that's impossible. It will vary from person to person and from club to club. The whole point of this video is to encourage you not to waste your precious time, and most golfers tend to have other things to do rather than just playing golf, and you don't want to waste your time practicing with your feet together. There's no point. So wider stance allows you to move the club head through, low to the ground and straight. It also tends to allow your wrists to work correctly, that away. So the club head is going through either slightly down or parallel to the ground, so you can hit the ball in the middle of the face and flight the ball far, far better. I'll show you something else now. I've taught James now for about 10 years, got down to 2 handicap. Nice wide stance, gives him a nice wide arc, and then crucially, because of the wider stance, he can then shift his weight to the left and produce a superb impact, like so. So the ball was here, and he hits the ball and the club head is now there, so maybe 12 inches forward and the club head is still underneath that line. In this particular lesson he's hitting a 7-iron and he's flying the ball through the air more than 200 yards. That's a long, long way. Most people can't do that, but James can, mainly because he's very strong and his impact position is superb because he's got this nice wide stance. Bang, look at that. Left arm still leading the shaft. Superb swing. So I could show you many more of my pupils. Producing fantastic scores. One man shot a gross 59. Imagine that, gross 59. Nice wide stance, and never once have I ever said to him or anybody else that I teach, practice with your feet together. And I would urge you to not do that. Another man won the Australian Open, Wayne Riley. And Wayne, this picture's on the wall here somewhere, nice wide stance, and I've never consciously asked any of my pupils to practice with their feet together. I think you should always practice things that are part of the swing. For example, you wouldn't want to practice your grip by doing that. There's no point, because you don't need to practice a grip that's a good grip. And aiming, you wouldn't practice aiming out to the right for whatever reason. You'd want to aim, hopefully, pointing straight. Golf, as you maybe have discovered, is probably the hardest game in the world, and it's really difficult to learn a swing. It makes it even more complicated if you practice things that aren't part of that golf swing. I've always believed that you should practice, not a huge amount, but you should practice a little bit so you're aware of what you're doing, ball position, feet, etc., and then only practice parts of your swing that you're going to use when you're playing golf. So I don't think, even though I've heard it lots of times, that practicing with your feet together is a good thing. I understand why people do it, to try and get you to turn round and use your wrists like that. But good golfers don't do that. They really do not do that. Watch the new crop of good golfers. Watch Justin Thomas. Watch Dustin Johnson. Watch Bryson DeChambeau. They just hit the ball forward really hard. You do not see them practicing with their feet together. So please don't do it. I hope this helps. I hope it makes your practice more positive in future. And please just practice movements that are part of the swing you want to have when you're actually playing golf. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.